Now, I know the title of this video is I told you all this would happen, but I want to be clear here. I told you all that something like this would happen, but this is playing out a little bit differently than I expected. To be completely honest, when I saw the news, it kind of caught me off guard because, don't get me wrong, I knew something like this was coming. I just thought it would look a little bit differently. I thought that things would play out a little bit differently. Now, I reported to you all a few days ago that North Korea has now sent troops over to Russia to help Russia fight Ukraine. Now, when I saw this news, I immediately knew what this meant. And I told you all that NATO would use this as an excuse to put boots on the ground. I'm not saying that troops would necessarily come directly from America, but I figured that some country within NATO would use this as an excuse to put boots on the ground in Ukraine and help Ukraine fight against Russia and North Korea. Now, that's not exactly what's going on, at least yet, but something is playing out. You see, South Korea has now issued threats that they will put boots on the ground in Ukraine, boots of their own. I thought it would be NATO. I thought NATO would be the first to jump at this opportunity. But no, it's South Korea. Now, of course, South Korea and North Korea are enemies. We all know that. We don't got to go through the history. But this really caught me off guard because thus far, South Korea has not got involved at all. In fact, NATO has been pressuring South Korea to send weapons and stuff to Ukraine for a while, and they have refused. America has directly tried to get South Korea to send weapons and stuff and ammunition to Ukraine, and they have refused. But now that North Korean troops are on the ground in Russia preparing to fight in this war against Ukraine, South Korea is like, well, guess what? We'll send troops of our own, and guess what? Now we're going to start sending weapons and ammunition. So this has taken things to the next level. Now, I knew things were going to go to the next level. As soon as those North Korean troops went to Russia, I already knew that this war was going to turn up a notch. But I didn't see this coming. I figured it would be NATO. It's looking like it's going to be South Korea. And in many ways, I mean, the way things are shaping out right now, it looks like the war that South Korea and North Korea have really been wanting to fight against each other, it looks like they may use Ukraine as the battleground. It's some really wild stuff, but let's go ahead and dive into this information. Then, of course, we'll discuss some of the information that's been released thus far. South Korea is renewing its threat to send weapons to Ukraine days after releasing intelligence alleging that North Korea plans to deploy a large number of troops to support Russia's invasion. South Korea will consider sending Ukraine weapons for defense and attack, according to the Yonhap news agency, which cited an unnamed senior presidential official on Tuesday. Yonhap also reported that Seoul may send military and intelligence personnel to Ukraine to analyze North Korean battlefield tactics and assist in interrogations of captured North Koreans. In a statement, South Korea's National Security Council called for the immediate withdrawal of North Korean troops from Russia and pledged unspecified phased countermeasures. The warning marks one of South Korea's strongest yet, as concern rises over North Korea's deepening involvement in the Ukraine conflict. Last week, South Korea's intelligence agency said North Korea already has sent about 1,500 special forces to Russia to join the war in Ukraine, and it is planning to deploy a total of 12,000 troops from an elite unit. U.S. and NATO officials have said they cannot confirm the North Korean troop deployment, but have condemned North Korea-Russia military cooperation, including North Korea's supply of artillery and missiles for use in Ukraine. Western countries have long urged South Korea, one of the world's biggest weapons exporters, to directly arm Ukraine. South Korea has resisted, fearing this could prompt Russia to expand military ties with North Korea, which seeks advanced weapons targeting South Korea. However, some analysts believe South Korea's strategic calculations may be changing, since North Korea-Russia ties are growing despite South Korea's caution. Earlier this year, North Korea and Russia restored a Cold War-era mutual defense treaty, opening the door for a much wider range of military cooperation. By sending troops to Ukraine, North Korea's military could gain valuable battlefield experience, secure financial support to bolster the country's struggling economy, and lay the groundwork for future joint drills with Russia, according to analysts. There are also fears in South Korea that North Korea seeks advanced military technology directly from Moscow, potentially including help with its nuclear missile or satellite programs. These concerns likely explain South Korea's strong response to North Korea's involvement in Ukraine, said Mason Ritchie, a professor at Hankook University of Foreign Studies in South Korea. To me, the easiest explanation is that South Korea thinks North Korea is getting something sufficiently valuable for that troop deployment, so that makes sense to take some risks to impose cost on Russia. A decision to arm Ukraine could also play into South Korean president's foreign policy mantra of peace through strength, said Ben Engel, who teaches political science and international relations at Dankook University outside of Seoul. They won't look very strong if they don't react somehow, and sending weapons to Ukraine is something they are de facto doing already. So doing it explicitly seems like an easy step to show strength. South Korea has so far provided weapons only to third parties such as the United States and Poland, which are directly supplying weapons to Ukraine. Officials often defend this stance by citing domestic laws that restrict the export of arms to active conflict zones, although Yoon has hinted that these barriers will be bypassed. Some analysts suggest South Korea may also be weighing the outcome of the upcoming U.S. election before making any decision moves, especially since former President Donald Trump has suggested he would reduce support for Ukraine. There's little sense in responding positively to appeals that U.S. President Joe Biden and NATO made 6 months ago if Trump wins. Beyond political considerations such as the U.S. election, some experts warn that the deepening strategic alignment between North Korea and Russia presents long-term challenges that threaten South Korea's security. A researcher specializing in Russia at the Korea Institute for National Unification said that the relationship between North Korea and Russia is evolving beyond short-term military cooperation. People tend to think that North Korea will just send a few soldiers, receive economic support, and get minor military technologies in return. But Kim Jong-un's perspective is much broader than that. For North Korea, fighting in Russia is not just about helping Russia. It's seen as participating in North Korea's own sacred war against the U.S. Their mindset could be that they live, fight, and die together with Russia. This broader realignment could have serious implications for South Korea. Although the number of troops being deployed might be small, the implications of such a deployment are significant. It's an action by Russia and North Korea that could change the global political landscape. Well put. Exactly. This changes absolutely everything. And if South Korea puts troops on the ground as well, I mean, just think of it, folks. South Korea and North Korea, they've been wanting to punch each other in the face for a long time, right? But they really don't want to fight this war in their homeland. They don't want South Korea destroyed or North Korea destroyed. So it's like these two bitter enemies are going to meet up in some foreign country to fight each other. It's like Ukraine is being used as the battleground for the entire world right now. Because the war in Ukraine, this is really a war like Putin has already put it. This is NATO versus Russia. This isn't Russia versus Ukraine. So in many ways, America has been using Ukraine as the battlefield to fight Russia because, look, we don't want World War III fought on our doorstep. We don't want to fight Russia here in the U.S., and we don't want to fight Russia in Russia, and neither does Russia. Russia doesn't want to fight us in Russia. They don't want to fight us over here. So we'll fight in Ukraine. It's kind of like in middle school, when you get in fights in middle school. You might not want to fight in his front yard because maybe he has some brothers and stuff, right? And he might not want to fight in your front yard, or you might not want to fight in your front yard because you don't want to get in trouble in front of your parents. So what do? Right? You go fight at the bus stop. You meet at the playground after school. That's what this is. Ukraine is the playground. These different countries around the world got beef. And instead of fighting at home, instead of fighting in front of their house, they're like, hey, meet me here at 3 p.m. Meet me in Ukraine and we'll fight there. That's what's happening. So if we get a full blown out war between North Korea and South Korea in Ukraine, isn't that crazy? But that's what this is shaping out to be. And I did not see that coming. I thought that, yeah, if North Korea really joins this fight and they start sending thousands more troops, of course we're going to put more boots on the ground. You know, of course we're going to officially put boots on the ground for the first time. But now South Korea is like, hey, we'll do it. We'll do it. Screw that. Because they see that this alliance is strengthening. The bond between Kim Jong-un and Putin is strengthening. And they see that as the #1 threat against their country right now. And, you know, I got to say that this is playing out a lot differently than I expected. I knew other countries would get dragged in. I would have never have guessed it would be North Korea and South Korea. Don't get me wrong. I knew that North Korea would be aligned with Russia, and I knew that South Korea would be aligned with us. That's a no-brainer. But I didn't see like, oh, North Korean troops fighting South Korean troops in Ukraine. I didn't see that coming. I thought we would see a European country, you know, enter into the fray before, you know, we got North Korea and South Korea fighting. But hey, that's where we're at, folks. And that's just going to take things to another level. And I'm wondering what type of weapons will Russia start supplying North Korea, because right now North Korea is supplying a lot of ammunition and stuff to Russia. But Russia has all of these advanced missile systems and stuff that North Korea does not have access to. You know, Kim Jong-un, they call him the Rocket Man because he has a lot of failed missile tests and stuff like that. You know, Russia has the technology that North Korea needs. So the tighter these two grow, you know, it won't be long before Russia is sharing these secrets and sharing this technology. And honestly, I think once Kim Jong-un has this technology at his disposal, I do think that he's more of a loose cannon than Putin, than Xi Jinping over in China. I think that Kim Jong-un is more of a loose cannon than anyone in the world, kind of, in a way. But we'll see how things play out. Like they said, in many ways, South Korea is kind of waiting to see how the election goes. But right here, 2 weeks before the election, folks, like we all knew, things are really heating up. And of course, we got all of that other news breaking about the leaks of Israel's plans to attack Iran. And those leaks came from within our own government, folks. So we got a lot of stuff to worry about because we can't trust our own. Our own people in our own government are leaking plans. And if World War III did happen, there's a chance that we got moles already within our government that would leak our plans to Russia or China or whoever. So yeah, we got a lot to be worried about as far as World War III goes. But for now, let me know what you think down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.